Good morning. Welcome again to Morning Devotion. And thank you again so much for our time together. Today and in all of the services tomorrow, we're going to be back in the book of Acts as we learn some beautiful principles about how a baby church first began to separate and consolidate. And we're going to see that opposition is part of the separation. It's going to be a fun study. I look forward to seeing you there. Right now, I want us to go back to the book of Proverbs, chapter 26 again. We live in a world of PR, of personal branding, where, sometimes you begin to think that the old song, all the world is a stage, and, people have really begun to believe that, and you begin to wonder what's real in people. Now, one of the great challenges we have in life is learning how to read people and learning how to not accept things as face value. Sometimes as Christians, we are very trusting because we're honest and we're sincere. We think other people are just as honest and just as sincere. And forgive me, folks, that's not the world that we live in today. The facade and the mask and the acting and the branding and you just sometimes wonder what it's all about. I was reading an article the other day on one of the blogs that I received. And it said, when you see somebody who's always posting about their marriage and always posting about how much they love their husband or their wife, it really means they're insecure in the relationship and the relationship is in trouble because they're trying to present the image of marital bliss. It really reveals that in their heart, it's exactly the opposite. I'm sitting there going, Grabe, I would have never thought of that. I would have thought that if people post beautiful things about their marriage, I'm not talking about once in a while, I'm talking about it daily, You begin to understand, sometimes as Christians, we are very, very naive. Now, Solomon tries to get his son out of some naivety. He said, a malicious man disguises himself. Well, let's back up to verse 23. Like a coating of glaze over earthenware are fervent lips with an evil heart. So you can mask the evil heart. You can make something look beautiful, like a beautiful glaze over an earthen pot. You can make something look beautiful by disguising it with fervency, with zeal. Even though it's evil, you make it look good because you disguise it with fervency. A malicious man disguises himself with his lips. Now, not only does an evil person disguise himself by fervent lips, a malicious man disguises himself with his lips. But in his heart he harbors deceit. Though his speech is charming, do not believe him. For 7 abominations fill his heart. His malice may be concealed by deception, but his wickedness will be exposed in the assembly. Now, Solomon looks at his son and says, son, you got to realize, just because someone's speech is charming, just because someone's speech is very fervent, doesn't mean they're real. Now, young people, sometimes you are so impressed by zealousness, and you don't understand that zealousness is often a disguise for an evil heart. We're so impressed by charming speech, people who speak so well, that we don't understand that it is often a disguise for 7 abominations that fill the heart. You and I need to learn to back up a little bit and remember that you judge things by their fruit. You don't judge things by the tree. Jesus teaches that. A false prophet, you don't judge him by the tree, you judge it by the fruit. Don't judge a person by their words. In relationships, learn, what is the fruit of this person's life? A young lady told me one time, she said, Pastor Summerall, there are 2 boys trying to court me. I said, really? I said, tell me about them. She said, well, one boy is so charming and his words are so beautiful to listen to. And she said, the other guy, he can hardly speak when he comes around me. I said, except the second guy. She said, but why? I said, because he really loves you. I said, the other guy, he's a player with his charming speech. She said, are you serious, Pastor? I said, take my word for it. Go for the second guy. I said, now my name's not Jesus and I can't tell you what to do. But I said, when a young man is so tongue-tied around you that he can hardly speak, he's not trying to get in bed with you. He wants to win your heart. He loves you. You mean something to him. And she just, wow. See, the other guy used his charming speech to disguise 7 abominations in his heart. He'd had 3 girls. He had babies by 2 other girls. When she found all this out, she came back and she said, Pastor, You were right. I said, no, the Bible's right.